All right, hey everyone, welcome to another tier list video. Here we are, instead of just doing the Nintendo consoles, we are doing almost all the consoles. I think it's a good chunk of them, so it's going to be a pretty good list. I think we're just going to go in order of how the tier list maker did them. So that way we'll rank them that way, and maybe we'll have some few surprises. And then in the end, we'll go around and see how happy we are with the list. So up first is the Game Boy. Man, this was one of those, you want to say ahead of its time, but it wasn't ahead of its time. It was made with older technology, so it's kind of one of those things. But as someone who was around and kicking in the 80s and got a Game Boy damn near launch, this thing was awesome. It like revolutionized car trips for us kids. No longer did you have to like read a magazine or a book, or if you were lucky, you had your own Walkman to listen to your own music and not what your parents were listening to for a long car trip. But you could play video games. Some of them were shite video games, but they were video games. But you know, Nintendo had its gems. Tetris was hours and hours of fun. Super Mario Land. The Mega Man games were good on this. Metroid got its first official sequel on the Game Boy. I'm gonna put it at the B tier for right now. I think that's a good solid mark for it because we do have some other handhelds in here that I think are better than the Game Boy. But let's go ahead and move on to the next one, the Nintendo GameCube. You know, had I done this list a year ago, maybe, or a little bit longer ago, this probably would have been a solid B system. But I've just started getting back into the GameCube and really appreciating it because this system for me came out at a time when I was just starting college, and my friends and I were still playing WWE No Mercy on our N64 and the Mario Party games on the N64 along with GoldenEye, but we also all had Xboxes and really getting down with LAN parties playing Halo and Halo 2. So the GameCube for me kind of got pushed to the side. There, we did have some fun with it. We played the newer wrestling games on it. We did play the Mario Party games. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles ate up a lot of our time. But it was one of those things like I don't have a ton of nostalgic memories for it. I actually have more nostalgic memories of me and my friends like speculating what the GameCube was going to be with Nintendo switching to a disc-based system. But in the last year, I've been playing a lot of GameCube. I got my Japanese GameCube and imported a bunch of Japanese games. I've got, still my American GameCube. And I'm going to say this is a solid A system. And I also think one thing that I really like about the GameCube is, as far as the retro systems go, this and the Dreamcast really translate the HD TVs. If you get an up converter, they look really good, especially the GameCube. Like Nintendo first party games, they're really bright and vibrant, and they look fantastic upscale to 1080, not, well, probably 1080 or 720, whatever the upscalers are upscaling to, but they look great. And so, yeah, solid A system. All right, and now we have the Behemoth. For now, the greatest selling console of all time. I've got a love-hate relationship with the PS2. I got a launch PS2, really enjoyed it. Metal Gear Solid 2, loved it. Zone of Enders, the EA Sports games for it. But mine died on me, and it was before Sony was offering the free laser replacements on it. And they wanted to charge me $120. So I actually got rid of my PlayStation 2 in favor of an Xbox. But with my personal biases towards Sony and how they tried to screw me, this was the system. DVD playback, DVD discs. I'm going to give it a solid A. And the reason why I'm giving it a solid A, and it could, maybe after at the end when we redo this, it might be an S tier. But outside of a handful of games, there's no like real memorable games for me on this system. It's not like I'll look back on the GameCube, think fondly. I'll look back on the PlayStation and think fondly. Xbox, Dreamcast, N64, and they'll be like the one game or the couple of games. They'll be like boom boom. These games define that system for me, and I think fondly of them. And for me, partially to get that S rank, I gotta go one about. I have to go back and want to repurchase that system to play the games, and I don't with the PS2. Like pretty much every, with the exception of maybe Metal Gear Solid 2, everything for the PS2, I kind of leave in that past. There's nothing that I want to go back to for that system. So that's why it gets an A rank. It just doesn't have that pull to me to where, oh, I want to play this system again, kind of thing. I think we're gonna have a lot of A rank systems here. And now we have the Sega Genesis Mega Drive if you're everywhere else but America, and this is a Mega Drive since it's got the 16-bit. I mean, that's a solid A system right there. It's what forced Nintendo to up their game to the 16-bit. Because had they never stepped up with the 16-bit, we might still be playing NESs and Famicoms and 8-bit video games to this day. Because Nintendo would have just been stuck there. Or maybe we finally would have gotten the Super Nintendo in 2024 kind of thing. But I mean, you've got Sonic the Hedgehog's Alter Beast, Streets of Rage, Vector Man, Comic Zone, the better version of Mortal Kombat. So many like fantastic games if you're a 90s kid that you remember for the Mega Drive's Sega Genesis, and solid A system because it almost gets the S rank for me, but it's just so short. But unlike the PlayStation 2, this is a system I own and I do like to play every now and then. And then we have the PS3. Blu-ray, much like the PlayStation 2, it's one of those systems that the Blu-ray player was a big selling point for it, where the PS2, the DVD player, was a big selling point for it. Because I remember I wasn't going to get a PS3 because of the cost. And then when they did their first markdown, Metal Gear Solid 4 was out, and I wanted a Blu-ray player. It was the best Blu-ray player for the money. So it was one of those things where it's like, okay, I will go ahead and pick one up. But I think it's because again, it's just nothing real memorable to me. Nothing memorable to me on this one. So it is going to sadly be a B system for me. Next up, we have the SNES. Now, you want to talk about memorable games? I mean, I've got my SNES back there with Super Game Boy loaded in, but we've got the Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, Super Mario World, Madden 94, Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy 3 here in the West, 6 in the East, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time, Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball, Super Metroid, Mega Man 8. I think you see where I'm going with this one. And that is an S-rank system right there. This one, what is this one called? Yeah, it's like the portable TurboGrafx 16. I didn't own one. The batteries died quickly. It was kind of ahead of its time. It didn't sell well. Give it a C. Here we have the Nintendo Switch. At least I think this is supposed to be a Switch. They could have at least had the Joy-Cons in the frame. S system. I mean, it's the king of this generation and last generation. A ton of memorable games for it. The Nintendo Online, where you get to play a ton of retro Nintendo, Super Nintendo, N64, Game Boy Advance games, Sega Genesis games. I mean, it just has it all. Like, whatever you want with it, you get it for the most part. And just some of the games coming out for it from Nintendo themselves: Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Metroid Dread, Prime 4 is coming, Super Mario Odyssey, and then, we get some really nice remasters and re-releases like Dragon Quest III, Chrono Cross. There's a ton of games. I mean, I don't know if you can see my shelf down there, but there's just a bunch of Switch games. And, NES World Championship. Just so many just banger after banger after banger games. Mario Kart, Mario Party. All the Pikmin games are on one system. It's just a phenomenal system. I mean, you can't say much more for it other than S tier ranking. All right. And then we've got the Nintendo DS. again, a lot of memorable things for this system. I had a DS. I enjoyed the DS. I liked it a lot. But I was in college. I wasn't really into handhelds, and handhelds. I'm not gonna say they're like kid systems, but I think they function more for kids. And since I was a student, and I would play like the Xbox and things like that with my friends, and then later like the Wii, Xbox 360, things like that. This system just kind of fell to the wayside for me. I played it every once in a while, like in the student union or something like that between classes, but it was never really a must for me. So I'm gonna give it a B ranking, and that leads us right into the 3DS. And the 3DS, that's actually gonna get an A ranking for me because for me with the 3DS, when that came out, I was in the workforce and I was taking the train into work, so I had free time to play portable games and such. And so like I actually went back and played some DS games and the 3DS games, and it was just it's a better system. It's a more powerful system, and I think it's just slightly better than the DS. And if you're younger than me and you kind of grew up with the DS, kind of like how I grew up with the Game Boy, you might, flop those two because you have more fond memories of the DS. But for me, the DS was just okay, where I thought the 3DS was much better. And now we have the Xbox One, the start of the downfall of Microsoft. In spite of its piss poor launch, it is a pretty good system. I had a lot of fun with my Xbox One. A lot of good games came out for it. And, like I said, in spite of its piss poor launch, it still did pretty well as a system. So I think, B right there. Because, again, it's not a system I long to go back to. Most of the Xbox One games you can play on current systems with the Xbox. But also, it's like, if I didn't have an Xbox Series X, I wouldn't, feel the need to go back and replay any Xbox One exclusives. So that's why, it gets a B tier. The Xbox 360. This, I'm not even going to wait to reveal. That's going to be a solid S tier. You got the Halo games, what was it, 3 and 4. Then you had all three Gears of War games come out for it. And that's just from like a shooter, Xbox exclusive stat. Like, not to mention the Forza games. Then you had, Call of Duty was really killing it on the 360. And honestly, this was just going smooth until the Kinect came out. So, but this was a banger of a system. It was better than, in my opinion, the PS3, in spite of not having a Blu-ray player. But I just feel like looking back on this generation, I have more fond memories of my Xbox 360, far more than I do of my PS3. And boom, we've got the original Xbox, the game I got rid of my PS4 for, mostly because my PS4 died. And it's kind of funny, had my PS4 not died, I might not have ever picked up an Xbox, and therefore I might not have gotten an Xbox 360. Who knows how my gaming lifestyle would have been differently if my PS2 didn't die. But I was thinking about putting this at B, but just remembering all the LAN parties and everything, all the fun I had with that Xbox 360 and our original Xbox, I was about to say Xbox One. I think it definitely gives it an A. That was just too much fun to be had. And in all honesty, when I look back on my Xbox, the only games I really remember playing for it are Halo and Halo 1, or Halo 2. So in spite of it just being two games, those Xbox LAN parties were some of the best times I had in my college age. So solid A for that system. And then we had the one that started it all, the Atari. D. I know people probably older than me were like, "Oh, the Atari is great. It basically started it all." Yeah, but the graphics were shit, and honestly, like, playing outside of playing Pitfall, and I've played a bunch of Atari games. They all kind of suck. Like, their arcade ports are shit, and just not a good system. And while we're at it, the 5200, just the more expensive Atari, you get an F. And we're gonna blow through these. Jaguar, ahead of your time graphically, So we'll give you a C. You had some cool looking games, but again, just kind of a shit system. So, but you get a C for your graphics. And now we move on to the king of the PS3, Xbox 360, Wii era, the Wii. Um, Best selling system of that generation. Wii Sports was a lot of fun. Um, it's gonna be a B tier for me though, only because of all the forced motion control Nintendo made you do with it. It was one of those things like I was so excited for the Zelda games to come out on it, but I was working like it came out right at the end of college for me, right before. Oh no, I was still in college when it came out, and but I was working a full time job, was in college, and then I started transitioning to the workforce. And what sucked is like after a long day of class, after a long day of work, I don't want to swing my arms around to play Zelda or Mario. I just want to have a controller. So honestly, like the Wii, especially with the virtual console and all the things like the Wii did, if like some of its mainstays would have let you just use the Pro controller to play as a normal video game, as opposed to forcing me to do motion control, it might have been an S tier. But because like I didn't go back and play some of these games until later when they got remakes or remasters, like Skyward Sword. I didn't even play. I bought it for the Wii. I bought the 25th anniversary because like, oh, it's got more precise motion control, and I played it. I was just like, oh, I don't want to do this kind of thing. So because a lot of those games I didn't play, I didn't go back and play until I could play with regular controls. Hurt it. I did have fun with like Wii Sports. I had fun with Tiger Woods golf. Love Tiger Woods golf on this. But yeah, at the end of the day, if you're older and you've been at school all day, you've been at work all day, you don't want to swing your arms to play a video game sometimes. Sometimes you just want to sit down with just the controller and play. So that's where the Wii gets hurt and it gets knocked to a B. That's my opinion. All right. Oh, that's the same one. Why do we have repeats? So you're just going to go in F. We got the system that really started the video game revolution. It was after the crash. And I mean, this is just an A system. So many great games that we all remember. For me, it's all three Mario games. It's Tetris. It's Metroid. It's The Legend of Zelda. It's even Legend of Zelda 2. It is Tecmo Bowl. It's Pinball. It's Ninja Turtles, the arcade game. It's Ice Hockey. So many great games. So many fond memories. Mega Man, again. Another game to add on to there. Just, it's an S system. S system all the way. Next up, we have this Sega Saturn. And this is one of those systems that I always wanted, and I finally got one. I don't know if you can see it because I've repositioned the camera. But having one, I've only played it a handful of times. I appreciate it for what it is, but it's nothing special. Solid C tier. And then Sega's answer to the Game Boy. Color screen, graphics kind of sucked. It's kind of funny, like even with the black and white, I preferred like the sprites and pixels for the Game Boy over the colored Game Gear. But I would say, even though the shit battery life, still had some fun games on par with the Game Boy. We'll give it a B. The PS Vita. If it wasn't for all the proprietary crap Sony gave it, it would have been ranked higher because memory cards were expensive. Everything was expensive for it. And it just seemed like they gave up on it like after like a year and a half. It was a really fun system. Had some really cool games. I really enjoyed mine. But just because it was one of those failed Sony experiments, it really only a B for it. It's just it's just one of those systems that had so much potential and Sony just didn't do much with it. And this one right here, I think this is, no, it's not the Magnavox Odyssey. I can't remember what system this is, but it's one of those crap systems for the video game crash. F tier. Oh, the Sega Dreamcast. How I was so foolish to trade you in back in the day and regretted it almost instantly to where I bought another one. So many memorable games for this one. You got the Sonic Adventure series, Crazy Taxi, House of the Dead, Typing of the Dead, Seaman, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Just awesome, fun games. Tokyo Extreme Racing 1 and 2. Power Stone 1 and 2. Just Dead or Alive 2. I can just go on and on with this system. I love the system. I still play it to this day. It's fantastic. Sega, you got your first S tier with that one. The Game & Watch series, LED screen, LCD games, they're just whatever. But I mean, this came out before, I want to say Game & Watch came out even before the Famicom did. At least the first one, which is this one. You know, they're not terrible. They're like for a train ride into work, something like that to keep you busy, keep you occupied. I mean, just like any mobile game. I mean, solid C tier right there. The Xbox Series X, the console getting its ass whooped by the PS5 and the Nintendo Switch. But you know what? I really like it. And this one I was about to put in A. But Game Pass is awesome and still the best value in gaming. Game Pass gets it to the S tier. I know there's going to be controversy, and especially once I get to the PS5. But yeah, in spite of the lack of like real exclusives, like even though like if Microsoft wasn't starting to put their games out on the PlayStation this year, like these last 2 years for the Xbox, they've really turned it around with like the studios they've acquired and everything like that. And if they weren't also publishing games on the PlayStation with them having a delayed exclusive, like I really think they could almost turn the tide. But they've already committed to that. But all their games, day one on Game Pass. So, you know, you basically play like 2 new games a year on Game Pass. Like you actually play them, and especially if they're games you were to buy, it pays for itself. The Game Pass. So yeah, it gets an S rank for me. I play my sit down consoles, like not my Switch or my Legion Go, my handhelds. Of my sit down consoles, I play my Series X the most. So to me, that gives it the S ranking. And then we have my favorite of the retro consoles, the ColecoVision. Way better than the Atari. I mean, the sprites, the graphics were pretty good. And like you play a lot of ColecoVision games, like it was like some of their like later games were on par with early Famicom games. Like that's how much better the ColecoVision. And this could be in a television, but we're going to pretend it's a ColecoVision. Can't really see the full thing. ColecoVision and Intellivision had very similar design looks and basically the same controller. So we're going to pretend this is the ColecoVision because I'm talking about the ColecoVision. It was a banger of a system before the crash. And in fact, like, had Atari not flooded the market with shit games, ColecoVision could have carried it for a little bit until the Nintendo came, and the Nintendo would have whooped its ass. But the ColecoVision was solid C system right there. And we're coming to the system I most fondly remember from my youth, the N64. As you can see, the collection's going well. We're well over halfway there. And this one's tough for me. It's like I have so many fond memories and so many banger games. So does it get an S rank? Does it get an A rank? It's one of those. It's really really hard for me to rank this one as far as A or S. All the THQ wrestling games from WCW to WWE, my friends and I played a ton of that. I have so many fond memories of doing that. Mario Kart, GoldenEye, Mario Party, Smash Brothers. It just goes on and on with a lot of the fun games. Like, and we're not even talking about we did talk about one rare game, GoldenEye, but like Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day. My friends and I had a lot of fun with Jet Force Gemini. There's just so many fun games. Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball, 1080 Snowboarding, F-Zero. There's so many games just to list out for this system. So I've talked myself into it. I was going to put it at A because a lot of the games don't play as well as you remember, only because the advance in modern gaming, games just play better these days. But nah, too many fond memories, too much fun. It gets the S ranking. So Nintendo, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 systems in the S ranking, and you had a close one with that one. And here we are coming up with the Neo Geo Pocket. I always wanted one of these. I think they're cool. I love Pocket Fighters. I love the Mega Man game for it, the Sonic game for it. And I'm going to go look for one when I'm in Japan. It's going to get a solid B for me. I can't put it above the Game Boy. In fact, the Game Boy might get ranked up to A when we're all said and done. The Game Boy Advance. I had so much fun with this system. Much like the GameCube, I kind of like didn't appreciate it when I had it. Like I did have a lot of fun with it. It got me through hurricane season, man. Power would go out. Final Fantasy Tactics going on the Game Boy Advance. I think I got to put it in A. Again, I didn't appreciate it as much as I did when I first owned it. But, looking back on it, I've got the Game Boy Advance player on my GameCube. I've been playing more games for it. Been playing them on Nintendo Online. Solid A system. And then we have the Nokia N-Gage. Is it a phone? Is it a game system? It doesn't do either well. F. PlayStation 5. This one's tough for me. A lot of the Sony exclusive I've really enjoyed. The new God of War series, the Spider-Man series. Some of their exclusives that aren't made by Sony, Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth, and then Final Fantasy 16. However, when it comes to multi-plat systems or games, the Xbox Series X is my go-to. I like the Xbox OS better. I like the controller better, though I like the layout of the control better. The haptic feedback on the PlayStation 5 controller is phenomenal, and I love that. But here's the problem. Game Pass keeps me coming back to my Xbox constantly because there's always new games for me to play through that don't cost me really any additional money. And I know PlayStation has its PlayStation Plus program, but it's not the same as Game Pass. And it's gotten to the point where I've thought about just selling my PS5 and like those exclusive games, just waiting for them to come to PC and play them there. So I know it's going to be a controversy and people will probably give me shit for it. But the PS5 is a phenomenal system. I do enjoy it, but it falls below the Series X. It gets an A rank instead of an S tier ranking. So right now we've only got a few systems left, and oh boy, we've got several Nintendo, Sega, and Microsoft systems in the S rank. No PlayStation systems there. The highest they've gotten is A. And we're on to the PS4. And the only thing I can say about the PS4 is I really enjoyed Death Stranding and Ghost of Tsushima on it. But other than that, I don't really have any, high memories of the PS4. Again, like a lot of Sega or Sony's like first party games, like The Last of Us, things like that, don't hit with me. I'm not the biggest fan of those games. So, but got the remake of God or the reboot of God of War came out on this. The first Spider-Man came out on this. Ghost of Tsushima came out on this. I did have a lot of fun with this system. Death Stranding. So PS4, you get an A ranking for that. PSP, much like the Vita, it was. So I just felt Sony gave up on it too quickly. Had a lot of good things for it. The UMD discs before we could watch, movies on our phone and things like that was pretty cool, pretty revolutionary. You know what? PSP, you're gonna get an A ranking for it. I didn't own one of them, but I did. I was envious of my friends who had them, and I thought it was pretty cool. And here we come. Sony's first S ranking, the original PlayStation. I have a lot of fond memories with this system. In fact, I played more PS1 games on my PS2 than I did PS2 games. Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8. You had Metal Gear Solid. Those are the ones. I mean, the Sony sports games, Ape Escape. You had a ton of fun experimental. That's one thing I really do like about the PlayStation over its siblings. Is Sony really experimented with the system. So they threw a ton of shit at the wall and saw what stuck. And some of the things that didn't stick were more fun than some of the things that did stick. And you had also the genesis of Gran Turismo. So Sony, boom, you get a system up in the S ranking. PlayStation 1 is fantastic. I got mine back there. Again, really to even think about an S ranking, it's got to be a system that I'm going to go back to. And, PlayStation do it. The Sega Master System. It was a good 8-bit effort, but there was nothing really there for me. It wasn't as good as the NES. So it gets a B. A solid B for that. And then we've got another Saturn, unless that wasn't a Saturn. Oh, we got to go back to that one. I can see what it is now. But the Sega Saturn, we already talked about you, B ranking. This is the, is that the 3DO or, got it. Oh, wait, this is the SNK. Oh, this is the SNK system. I never had one of these. It's stupid expensive. But the arcade quality graphics and everything on it, that's going to get a B right there. The TurboGrafx 16. I wanted one of these, but never got one. But it's never ticked the box for me. Outside of like Bonk's Adventures, I can't tell you a single game. Oh, maybe Splatterhouse. But yeah, it's just, there's nothing there. C ranking. The Wii U. I had a Wii U. I liked my Wii U. I thought the Wii U was pretty damn good. I think games like Mario Maker really stood out for it. Mario Kart 8, the Mario Party series. I think Mario Party 10 was on it, maybe 9. So many good games for it, but they were all first-party ranked games. So I thought about giving it a B. You know what? Mario Maker gets it to a B. I had so much fun with Mario Maker gets it. And then, we ended with a wet fart because we already had the 360 up there. So, boom, 360, you get another S ranking. So let's go over this. I think I'm going to move Game Boy up to the A rank. See, S ranking. I'm good with that S ranking. No problems there. The A tier. Yeah, pretty good. B tier. Kind of want to move the DS up to the A rank. Yeah, we're gonna move DS up. DS gets moved up to the A rank because, again, once I got my 3DS, I went back and played a lot of DS games on it. So yeah, solid there. Xbox One, PS3, Game Gear. Yeah, I like this list. So boom. Here is my list. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you enjoyed this, share it with some other people. That'd be very appreciative, and we'll see you in the next one.